ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Farmers Academy. I'm Patricia, your regulatory bestie, and in this video, we are going to Egypt. We are going to be looking at the eCTD Module 1 for the Egyptian Drug Authority. So let's get right into it. I have here the Egyptian guideline for the submission guidance for the Common Technical Document for the registration of human pharmaceutical products according to the EDA, that's the Egyptian Drug Authority. You can download this document from the website, from the EDA website, and this was written or validated in 2023. It is the latest available document. And as always, you're welcome to read through all the other outstanding information. I'm just going to start with the teaser, that is Module 1. Remember, if you'd like to understand and learn how to construct a CTD or eCTD dossier, you are welcome to contact Pharmers Academy. We have various courses available for that with additional practice, so you get real dossiers to practice with. And we have specific Module 1s that will pertain to each different country or jurisdiction according to the DocuBridge method or software of compilation. So Module 1 for Egypt is pretty interesting. It starts off with the administrative information, as always, and we go into the prescribing information. So 1.1.1, so that's Module 1, Node 1.1, starts with the application form and the commitment on company letterhead signed, obviously by the responsible person, stamped and dated. So this is standard. You will need to complete the application form and commitment, as well as write out the letter on a company letterhead and stamp and date it. Then 112 goes to the letter of attorney for company representative. Okay. This is an additional step that we do not have, for example, in the SAPRA guideline, or even the Kenyan guideline or the Nigerian guideline, because Egypt is doing their own thing. So here, if your company has a representative, you will need to sign a letter of attorney. Then 113, you'll have the declaration of other concentrations on company letterhead. So again, it's a letter that you type out, you sign, stamp, and date it, confirming any other concentrations of this product. So it's a declaration. Maybe you have it in 100 milligrams, in 50 milligrams, in 10 milligrams. So you'll state that fully there. Then you have 114, which is the production or importation status declaration. Now, for re-registration of products, you will need the importation status because it's already been imported from before, prior. But if it's being produced for the first time, then you'll need to state that or declare that as a production declaration on a company letterhead. Again, it's a letter that you type out and you sign, stamp, and date it. So here, just note the difference between if you're producing it locally or if it's being imported from abroad. Then in 115, we have fees payment receipt. You're just going to attach the copy of your proof of payment, usually from the bank, and that's fine. Do include the total fees for re-registration of products. That's another important note. And 116 speaks to the fast track fees payment receipt if you are using that fast tracking route. Okay, so this is an option that you may use according to the EDA chairman decision of 2021. Then we go to node 1.2 for EDA approvals. So here in 1.2.1, they're going to want you to have an action letter and name approval for new products, registration license, and preliminary approval for the re-registration if it's a case of a re-registration product. That's pretty self-explanatory. 1.2.2, you have your pricing license. Again, that's an internal Egyptian regulation. Just include that there. If you don't have the license, perhaps you can include a proof of submission, I believe. In 1.2.3, you need your pharmacovigilance approval. This is where you'll show that you have indeed applied for and have, your pharmacovigilance plan in place for this product to be monitored correctly for ADRs, adverse events, and any other thing that ensues to be correctly tracked and traced and reported on. Then in 1.2.4, we want to look at any other approvals. If you have had any fast tracking approval, technical committee approval, if it's a new product, you may have special permissions or approvals, you put them here. Any pre-approved letter from the EDA concerning a product during previous registration periods, maybe it's a variation approval or a technical committee decision for re-registration products, you'll add that in as well. Then in 1.2.5, you need to have a pilot batch, samples, withdrawal records. So by inspection department, they have to validate those and with the product composition attached. So you'll need your formulation signed or stamped by an EDA inspector, and this is for new products. And so of course, your pilot batch, if it's a new product, you'll need to create that pilot batch. But if it's a re-registration, this won't be needed. Then you have your production or import status report. Depending on which is applicable, you'll have that included. And your importation approval for each API, that's 1.2.7. For new products, you'll need your importation approval for each of the APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, or if it's an importation approval plan for each of the APIs for a re-registration, then you can just include the plan. You don't have to have the full approval for re-registrations, that is. And then we go to 1.3. Here is imported or under license documents. Okay, so if this section doesn't apply, you will skip it. This is for imported products or products that are under licensing. Your certificate of pharmaceutical product, your CPP, used by competent authorities in country of origin. This is sometimes from the WHO, or in case of imported or imported bulk or under license products, then you may have that. If you have certificate of the good GMP or the good manufacturing practice, this is if it's imported or imported bulk, then you would have that certificate. Your technical committee approval or inspection reports. This is in the case of products that are imported from non-reference countries and not marketed in any reference country. Then you will need to have a technical committee approval or inspection report. And then in 1.3.4, a list of countries in which the product is registered or marketed. This is again just to prove that it is being sold elsewhere, it is being approved elsewhere, and therefore they should likely also be able to approve it. Then in Note 4, we have your committee's approval and leaflets and layouts. Now, 141 is your stability approval. You need to be able to demonstrate stability. This is more like the quality aspects. In 142, you have your bioequivalence approval. If it's applicable, so if it's a generic and you are not trying to demonstrate your own clinical effectiveness or efficacy, you may have the bioequivalence approval. 143, quality commitment approval for module 3, and they have an SMP part. If again that's required, you'll need to put that in here. And then for reference, go to module 3 to find where that SMP part is. 144, you have your approved leaflet. This is much like the Zazibona SADC, SAPRA copies. Your patient information leaflets need to be approved. You need the original plus 2 copies. You can include the original leaflet in case of under license, imported or imported bulk products. Oops. And then you need the original leaflet marketed in Egypt if it's for re-registration products. So if it's an original, like an NCE, you will have that original leaflet. Plus, they want you to add, if it was ever registered in Egypt before, the originator. So more like what they do in South Africa, you need 2 references. One is the originator, and then one is a foreign leaflet. This kind of the same thing applies here. And in 145, you have approved layout. This is what we would call the label for the outer and inner label. So if it's got a secondary packaging or a primary packaging, you would submit those with 3 colored copies so that they can see what it looks like on the shelves. And these have to be approved by the naming and labeling department. Then you have 146, which is the original pack, the outer and inner, in case of under license, imported products or imported bulk products. You have the original pack marketed in Egypt for re-registration products. So again, they want to see what you will be marketing and selling, what will be available on the market to the population. Then in 1.5, we come to references. And here the reference, online or textbook, have to be, the reference product should be identical to the submitted product, okay? This is in terms of a generic multi-source and things like that. In terms of the active ingredient, the concentration, and the dosage form, these should be identical. So don't go putting one same active ingredient, but that has 2 different dosage form. One is a liquid syrup, one is a tablet or capsule, or etc. So make sure the references are identical to the submitted product and that it's the latest edition of that reference. So if it's the BNF, it needs to be the latest available one, not one from 20 years ago. If it's an online reference, you need to have FDA, MHRA, EMA, ANSM, Swissmedic, TGA, PMDA. So all the reference products that the Egyptian Drug Authority aligns with, the national regulatory authorities, or if it's not a reference, non-reference approval, then from evaluation unit of scientific data and drug development for human pharmaceuticals, then you'll have to send a reference from there. Specialized committees and pharmacology of non-reference committees, approvals in case of non-reference new products. So if there are no references, then you need specialized committee approvals. And if there are non-reference committee and pharmacology committee approvals in case of re-registration products. Okay, so these are the references depending on the type of product you are registering. And then 152, you need your leaflet of the reference product as well. So besides the one you write out for your own product, here you'll put the one for the reference product that you've included in 151. Then in Node 6, so Module 1, Node 6, you have your product certificate. Here they need a CADC certificate, plus a CADC composition, plus a renewal certificate of the analysis file for a registered pharmaceutical product or for a re-reg product. This is typically a official certificate of analysis that the EDA will conduct in their specialized department so that you can analyze what the product entails. Almost like a national lab that we would use in South Africa. And then once you have that analysis certificate and composition, you'll include it here. Then in 162, we have the declaration to state if the product had been analyzed, undergoing analysis, or will be analyzed after registration in the EDA labs. So again, for imported bulk from reference countries on company letterhead, signed and stamped. You need to pick which one applies to you, write the letter on your letterhead and sign and stamp it. If you've had it analyzed, declare so. If you're going to have it analyzed, declare so. And if it will be analyzed after registration, you need to declare that. 163 is the composition certificate on company letterhead, signed and stamped. Again, whoever's done your analysis needs to certify that for you, stamp and date it. And then have your certificate of analysis of the finished product. So this is your normal COA from the lab that has conducted the analysis, and you attach it here. 1.7 speaks to the API documents and specifications. So 171 will need your certificate of analysis. This is for the active substance, so your API. You'll also need your GMP of the manufacturer in 172. So the GMP certificate standard, if the facility was licensed, it should have a GMP certificate that's valid, right? Dates are important here. Don't send something that's expired from like years ago. And then in 173, you need the specification for recent edition of specifications, your pharmacopoeia and or in-house specs of all active ingredients. So depending on how you make them for your APIs, if you're using the British pharmacopoeia, the American pharmacopoeia, or your own in-house standards to manufacture your APIs, that needs to be stated here on your company letterhead, signed and stamped. I know it's so itchy. I feel like I'm coming down with a cold. Then in 1.8, we have the company documents and agreements. Factory license and GMP factory or manufacturer and IDA license. Standard, your license needs to show your manufacturing plant needs to be licensed for the appropriate products. If it's sterile, non-sterile, if it's orthodox or complementary, if it's liquids or solid dosage forms, whatever. The register of trade, that's according to the registration types. Again, if you're import or import bulk or any other kind of registration, that needs to have its own register. Toll manufacturer license. So if you have a toll product, it means you're using a third-party manufacturer. Then you also need to show that contract and the manufacturer's certificates or licenses. If you are, then in 184, you need your license of scientific office and scientific office permit letter. This is if the scientific office is the applicant. And this is for imported bulk products. So if not, then that will be skipped. In 185, you need your importer's register license for imported and imported bulk. In 186, you need your company profile sheet screenshot. That's from your company registration register. You can take a screenshot and add it. And then in 187, you need your store license if that's a different factory, if it's different from the factory. And then in 188, you have agreements, either the according to the type of registration. So if you are manufacturing and storing from your own manufacturing place, or as an applicant with a third party, you'll either be toll third party or F-toll manufacturer that holds their own certificate of registration that still can hand out to a third party or manufacturer in-house. So different agreements will apply here. If you are licensed, your license agreement for under licensed product or your agency agreement or authorization letter for legalized, that's legalized by the Chamber of Commerce and the Egyptian Embassy, and your packaging agreement in case of bulk imported, that's authenticated by the bank and legal department of the EDA. So whichever one applies here, that's what you'll include. And then in 189, you'll have your declaration letter stating the list of registered and under registration products owned by the toll company. That's your third-party manufacturer for toll products. Or on the company head or on the company letterhead signed, stamped, and dated, if that applies. If you're manufacturing your own, if you're the license holder, then 1H10 will apply and should be legalized if it's a different entity for under licensed product. That means your products are under your own license and you're not third partying them necessarily. And then in 1.8.11, your declaration letter from the supplier stating the form of bulk. So if you're importing bulk and it's strips or capsules or loose tablets, then you need to declare that. This is for imported and imported bulk products. Again, on letterhead, signed, stamped, dated, and the legalized letter from the Chamber of Commerce. It will also be needed. And then in case of same entity or affiliate, it might be on the applicant letterhead. And then 1.9 is reserved for any special requirements. Anything that hasn't been included above and might become necessary, you can add it in 1.9. And then you go to module 2. So that is the summary of the module 1 as it pertains to the Egyptian Drug Authority. If you have been following the series and you saw us doing Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Botswana, South Africa, Zimbabwe, you can now start to see a trend in all the different module 1s across the African continent. The good thing is that from module 2, the eCTD or the CTD structure kicks in to where you have the same structure pretty much with your similarities in module 2, your quality in module 3, your safety in module 4, and your efficacy in module 5. But this was it for the Egyptian Drug Authority. Let me know in the comments below where you're watching from. If this was insightful to you, remember to always put a like because it really helps the channel grow and be promoted. And subscribe if you're not yet. It's completely free. And then it notifies you the next time I post any other free training videos for the channel. Thanks for watching, you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.